You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to flex your muscles. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Because when your mind is strong, truly strong, the room feels it before you even speak. A strong mind doesn't chase attention. It commands respect, not through arrogance, but through undeniable presence. You see, most people build bodies. Some build brands. But very few ever build the one thing that changes everything. A mind so solid, so unshakable, so brutally clear, it terrifies mediocrity. Why? Because a strong mind doesn't need agreement. It doesn't crumble under pressure. It doesn't panic when the plan falls apart. It adapts. It recalibrates. It rises. You want to become unstoppable? Then forget impressing others. Forget fitting in. Forget being liked. Build a mind that doesn't flinch. Build a mind that says, this storm, let it come. Build a mind that scares people, not because you're cruel, but because you're clear. Because your silence is louder than their shouting. Because your calm exposes their chaos. Because your presence makes them realize they haven't done the work. And that kind of power, it isn't born. It's forged. Then let's build it. Because a strong mind isn't something you're born with, it's something you train. And the first step, embrace discomfort like it's your mentor. Most people run from discomfort. They label it as pain. They escape into distraction, into comfort, into anything that numbs the sting. But a strong mind, it runs toward it. Not because it enjoys suffering, but because it understands that discomfort is data. It's proof that you're stretching. It's evidence that you're outgrowing your limits. It's the raw material of transformation. A weak mind says, this is too hard. A strong mind says, this is how I grow. Every challenge becomes training. Every setback becomes feedback. Every no becomes fuel. And when you stop avoiding discomfort, you stop avoiding power. Step 2, ruthlessly control your input. You can't build a strong mind with junk thoughts, just like you can't build a strong body with junk food. If your mind is constantly flooded with gossip, fear, noise, and comparison, how can you expect it to think clearly, create powerfully, or act decisively? A strong mind is a guarded gate. It doesn't let everything in. It filters. It chooses. It protects its peace like a fortress. Because once your attention is hijacked, your clarity is gone. And without clarity, you can't lead. You can't build. You can't stand. Want mental strength? Then master what you watch. Master what you listen to. Master who you allow to speak into your world. You don't have to cut everyone off, but you do have to guard your influence because your mind becomes what it consumes. Step 3, train your focus like it's your life force, because it is. Distraction is the enemy of power, not because it's loud, but because it's subtle. It doesn't destroy you with force, it erodes you with fragments. One notification at a time, one scroll at a time, one excuse, one delay, one mental tab left open for too long. And before you know it, your mind is no longer yours. But a strong mind, it's not just focused. It's ruthlessly focused. Because here's the truth. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Where your attention flows, your identity forms. And if you don't train your focus, the world will train it for you. You want to scare mediocrity? Then lock in. Set blocks of time where you're unreachable. Cut off digital noise. Silence the world so you can hear yourself think, so you can build the internal stamina to stay locked into a task long after the world would have quit. Because this world doesn't need more people with ideas. It needs people with the concentration to execute them. Focus isn't something you have. It's something you practice. And the more you practice, the less space you give to doubt, to drama, to distraction. And when that becomes who you are, people feel it. They don't understand it, but they respect it. They can't manipulate you. They can't shake you. They can't pull you into every crisis because you're anchored. Step 4, make your word law. If you say you're going to do it, do it. Even if no one sees. Even if no one claps. Even if you're the only one holding yourself to that standard. Why? Because a weak mind negotiates with itself. A strong mind, it executes. It doesn't wait to feel like it. It doesn't beg for motivation. It moves because it said it would. Discipline isn't punishment. It's self-respect. And when your word becomes law, you stop chasing confidence. You become it. You embody it. You no longer need to convince anyone of your strength because your consistency speaks louder than your voice ever could. Then, let's finish what we started. Because building a strong mind doesn't end with discipline. It evolves into something deeper, something rare. Step 5. Master your emotions or they will master you. Understand this. Your mind cannot be strong if your emotions control your decisions. And emotional strength is not about being cold, stoic, or distant. It's about ownership. It's being able to feel the fear and still move forward. To feel the pressure and stay calm anyway. To feel the weight of the world and not let it bend you out of shape. A weak mind reacts. A strong mind responds. It sees the storm and chooses how to sail through it, not how to scream at the waves. You want real power? Then don't let anger speak for you. Don't let fear drive your choices. Don't let disappointment shut you down. Train your emotional muscle. Pause. Observe. Breathe before you respond. Own your internal world so deeply that no external event can steal your peace. Because when you master your emotions, you become unshakable. You become the eye of the hurricane. You become the stillness in a world addicted to reaction. And that calm terrifies people because it shows them what's possible when someone actually does the inner work. Step 6, choose solitude over noise. Most people can't sit alone in silence. They need constant stimulation, a screen, a voice, a distraction. Because if they're quiet for too long, they'll hear the truth they've been avoiding. But a strong mind seeks solitude. It chooses stillness, not because it's easy, but because it's where clarity lives. Because silence sharpens vision. Because alone is where you meet your real self. You want to scare the world? Be the one who's comfortable with themselves, who doesn't need a crowd to feel validated, who doesn't need attention to feel alive, who can disappear for a season and come back 10 times sharper. That kind of person, that's who changes rooms. That's who shifts cultures. That's who leads. And finally, step 7, think long, act daily. The strongest minds are vision-driven. They don't need instant results to stay committed. They don't need overnight applause. They plant deeply and build slowly because they're not after a quick win. They're building an empire that lasts. They move with urgency but never panic. They move with pace but never desperation because they know where they're going. And nothing can rush a mind that has already decided its outcome. So build that mind, brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by thought. And one day, you won't need to say a word. You'll walk into a room, and your presence alone will say, I am not here to be impressive. I am here because I've built something that cannot be shaken. Not loud, not flashy, just unignorable. That's the kind of mind that scares everyone because it can't be moved. And when you build that, you don't just win. You redefine what power looks like. The world won't hand you transformation. It will hand you tests. It will hand you silence. It will hand you rejection, betrayal, and failure dressed in 1,000 disguises. But transformation, That's your responsibility, your choice, your inner war. And here's the final brutal truth. Success doesn't care how much potential you have. It only cares how much pain you're willing to endure without giving up your purpose. You either find a way or you find an excuse. But both paths end with a legacy, one you're proud of or one you regret. Strategy number 1, take radical ownership. Not partial, not polite. Radical. Own every loss. Own every choice. Own every delay, every detour, every crack in your foundation. You cannot fix what you refuse to claim. You cannot rise above what you still blame. And when you stop saying, this happened to me, and start saying, this happened for me, now the game changes. Because now you've taken the power back. You're no longer a victim. You're a builder, a refiner, a sculptor of your own story. And your hands bruised, bloodied, blistered, they are the hands that will craft your legacy brick by brick. Strategy 2. Reframe the narrative. What if your greatest failure wasn't the curse, but the catalyst? What if the divorce, the debt, the breakdown, what if that was the exact pressure you needed to become the person you pretended to be before life made you earn it? Pain doesn't lie. It tells you exactly where your foundations are weak, where your beliefs are broken, where your character needs fire. So stop resisting it. Start reading it. Every failure is a script, a blueprint. But most people are too busy complaining to study it. You want to turn failure into success? Start by reading the very story it's trying to teach you. Strategy 3. Focus on internal alignment, not external approval. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they live divided. One part wants purpose, another wants comfort. One part wants to build, the other wants to be liked. One part wants truth, the other wants applause. But you cannot serve two masters. The man who is fully aligned, whose thoughts, actions, values, and vision all walk the same path, is unstoppable. He may move slowly, but every step compounds. He may go unseen, but every step is sacred. You must stop editing yourself to fit environments that were never designed for your growth. Be aligned, not liked. Strategy 4. Make peace with failure as your teacher, not your judge. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to evolve. You are here to sharpen, to refine, to be humbled and hardened and shaped by the storms life sends you. But that requires humility, not shame humility. Shame says, I am broken. Humility says, I have work to do. Shame keeps you in hiding. Humility keeps you in motion. One chains your potential, the other releases it. Strategy 5. Raise your standards before you raise your results. Most people think they need motivation to succeed. No, they need higher standards. They need to look at their current habits, associations, and daily choices and declare, this is no longer acceptable. Because the gap between failure and success is often not intelligence or luck, it's standards. What you tolerate becomes your template. What you accept in silence becomes the blueprint of your identity. You don't get what you want. You get what you demand from yourself first. Strategy 6. Audit your environment with ruthless honesty. You can't grow in soil that chokes your roots. You can't evolve surrounded by people who fear your expansion. The people who laugh at your failures are not the people who will cheer your victories. And some of them are in your circle not because they love you, but because they're comfortable with your limits. Clean house. Upgrade your influences. Follow energy, not history. You are not obligated to shrink for people who chose the path of least resistance. Strategy 7. Develop emotional mastery. You will never rise above the level of your emotional discipline. Failure is an emotional earthquake. If you are not grounded, it will consume you. But if you are trained, if you have built the muscle to feel deeply and still move forward, to face rejection and still act in alignment, you become unstoppable. Don't suppress your emotions. Master them. Let them pass through you, not control you. Feel them, learn from them, but never let them hijack your vision. Strategy 8. Invest more in wisdom than in validation. The world is drowning in opinions, and starving for wisdom. Success leaves clues, but most people are too busy chasing trends to notice. Seek depth. Study the greats. Read the words of those who fell and rose again. Don't just seek mentors, seek mentorship. Don't just chase new, pursue true. The wisdom that will transform your life is often hidden in the discipline you've been avoiding. Strategy 9. Make process your obsession. Results are fleeting. Identity is forever. Most people chase the finish line, but those who win long-term, they fall in love with the training. They become addicted to refinement. They don't just work hard, they work wholly. Every rep, every repetition, every failure in the gym of life becomes sacred. If you're not falling in love with the process, you'll never survive the pain required to earn the prize. Strategy 10. Be consistent when it's boring. Success is not sexy. It's not viral. It's not entertaining. It's consistency in the shadows, repetition in silence, progress when no one claps. Anyone can show up when they're inspired. The greats show up when they're exhausted, overlooked, and under fire because greatness is built in the monotony. Boredom is not the enemy, distraction is. Strategy 11. Stop negotiating with doubt. Doubt is not your advisor, it's your assassin. The moment you start reasoning with it, you've already lost ground. You don't have to silence doubt. You have to starve it. Starve it of time, starve it of energy, starve it of attention. Feed your faith, feed your focus, feed your future, starve everything else. Strategy 12. Turn your pain into purpose. Don't just move on, move through. Don't just get over it. Grow from it. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, it wasn't just pain. It was preparation. It was revelation. It was assignment. And once you learn to turn that pain into power, no storm will ever be wasted again. You become the kind of person who walks through fire, not to survive it, but to redeem it. Strategy 13. Build discipline like a sacred ritual, not just for work, for life. Discipline is the evidence that you love your future self. It's the language of self-respect. It's the secret handshake between your present and your potential. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, you cast a vote that says, I am worthy of the future I desire. Strategy 14. Fail forward faster. Don't delay the lesson. Don't fear the fall. Make the move. Take the shot. Launch before it's perfect. Say yes before you're ready. Life rewards velocity, backed by intention. While others wait for clarity, you create it. Because clarity doesn't precede movement. It follows it. Strategy 15. Anchor it all in identity. Who are you becoming? That is the real scoreboard. Not what you've built, but who you've become. Success is not something you pursue. It's something you align with. And when you build an identity that is congruent with greatness, success doesn't become the exception. It becomes the inevitable. Because at the end of the day, all strategy, all action, all progress flows from the same source, who you believe you are. So believe differently, act accordingly, rise relentlessly. You are not your failure. You are not your delay. You are not your doubt. You are becoming. And the world, whether it knows it or not, is waiting for you to rise. Then listen with your whole being, because what comes next is not just instruction, it's activation. You've walked through the storm. You've tasted the ashes of your own collapse. You've watched doors close, people walk, and dreams shatter in slow motion. And yet you're still breathing. Do you understand what that means? It means your story is still being written. It means the ink of your becoming hasn't dried. It means what you've survived is not a signal to shrink. It's a command to rise with fury, with fire, with resolve so deep it shakes the ground beneath your feet. Because here's the truth most never grasp. Turning failure into success is not about avoiding the pit. It's about becoming the kind of person who can build a ladder out of rubble, who can climb with cut hands and weary bones and say, I may bleed, but I never break. So if you're still breathing, build again. Build with what you've got. Build with the tools life gave you: pain, patience, silence, scars, instinct, wisdom. Build even if the world isn't watching. Build even if no one claps. Build until the bricks you laid in darkness become the foundation others stand on in the light. You've got to stop waiting for certainty, waiting for permission, waiting for the pain to stop. It doesn't stop, but you get stronger. You stop needing it to end, and you start using it. Because power comes from progress, and progress comes from persistence. Not the loud kind, not the glamorous kind, but the kind that keeps showing up after failure, after heartbreak, after rejection. The kind that walks into the fire again and again and again, saying, I will either come out forged or I will not come out at all. You've come too far to stop now. And yes, there are still more battles to fight, more wounds to take, more nights of silence, more days where the progress feels microscopic. But if you keep going, if you refuse to fold something, divine happens. You wake up one day, and the pain you thought would break you became the pressure that built you. You look in the mirror, and the failure you thought would define you became the furnace that refined you. You see your reflection, not as the person who lost, but as the warrior who refused to die in the valley. That's what this is about. Not just turning failure into success, but turning it into strength, into standard, into spiritual currency that can never be taken from you. This is not about chasing what the world calls success. This is about building the kind of soul the world can't ignore. Because when that soul speaks, even your silence shakes rooms. And when that soul moves, even your failures make way for victory. So keep building, keep rising, keep walking like you were chosen for more, because you were. Then let's keep going deeper, harder, sharper. Because now we're beyond motivation, beyond feel-good words. Now we're into the marrow of what separates the rare from the average, the legendary from the forgotten. Those who fold in failure from those who forge kingdoms out of it. Listen, failure was never meant to stop you. It was meant to strip you. Strip away the comfort. Strip away the lies. Strip away the illusion that the path would be easy. It was meant to burn away the ego, the laziness, the fantasies, so what's left is pure, authentic, battle-tested, bulletproof. And now you are here, standing in that purifying fire. But this next part, it's critical, because many rise for a season only to fall again. Not because they weren't worthy, not because they weren't gifted, but because they forgot what forged them. So strategy 16, never forget the cost. Never forget the nights you cried in silence. Never forget the jobs you worked that stole your energy, but paid for your dream. Never forget the betrayal that forced you to believe in yourself when no one else would. Never forget the hunger, the isolation, the rejection. Because when success begins to whisper, take it easy. You've made it. You better remember exactly what you walked through to get here. Gratitude is not just about being thankful. It's about being rooted, grounded, connected to the source of your rise. And that source, it wasn't applause. It wasn't luck. It was your decision to not die in defeat. You rose, and that rise must be protected. Strategy 17, protect the standard at all costs. The most dangerous lie is not that you'll fail. The most dangerous lie is that you can start to relax before the mission is complete. And make no mistake, you are on a mission to become everything you were designed to be, to leave nothing buried inside you, to live in such a way that death finds you empty, not full of untapped greatness. So when you reach a new level, raise the standard again. When success begins to flow, raise the intensity, raise the focus, raise the discipline, because success is rented and the rent is due every day. Most people downgrade their dreams to fit their discipline, but the rare ones, they upgrade their discipline to match their vision. Be rare. Strategy 18. Teach from your scars, not your wounds. Everyone's loud when they're angry. Everyone wants to post when they're hurt. But wisdom waits. Wisdom doesn't bleed on others, it builds from the bleeding. If failure taught you something real, teach it, but teach it after you've healed, after you've processed, after you've turned the pain into perspective. Don't infect others with your bitterness. Inspire them with your breakthrough. Your scars are sacred, And the world is starving for voices that have walked through fire and lived to speak life. Strategy 19. Plant seeds in your winter. Most people wait for the perfect season to begin. They wait for motivation, for support, for clarity. But winners, builders, they plant when it's dark, when it's cold, when there's no guarantee. They sow in silence. They plant in faith. And while the world sleeps, they're preparing for a harvest no one sees coming. Don't wait for spring. Create it. Strategy 20. Move with urgency, not anxiety. There's a difference. Anxiety says, I'm behind. I'm not enough. I'm out of time. But urgency says, I'm here for a reason and I refuse to waste another second. Your clock is ticking, not in fear, in fire, in purpose, in destiny. Every delay is disrespect to the calling that was placed on your life. So move like your future depends on it, because it does. And if no one understands your urgency, that's okay. They didn't survive your storm. They didn't wrestle with your regret. They don't know what it cost you to believe again. But you do. And that's enough. Because in the end, it's not about proving anyone wrong. It's not about being liked, praised, or admired. It's about becoming undeniable. Undeniable in your effort. Undeniable in your growth. Undeniable in your character, your mindset, your execution. So that when the next failure comes, and it will, you don't question yourself. You don't shrink. You smile because you know exactly what to do. Then brace yourself, because what comes now is not just the conclusion, it is the crowning. This is the moment where every setback is given a name, where every loss is seen for what it was, not a punishment, but a prophecy. The moment where every scar you carry begins to glow with purpose. And you realize it was all building you. The silence taught you how to listen to yourself. The rejection taught you how to stand alone. The bankruptcy taught you how to rebuild from nothing. The heartbreak taught you how to protect your soul. The failure taught you how to rise without applause. And now you are here, forged, focused, and free. Not because you had it easy, but because you chose not to die in the difficulty. You chose to rise. And that rise is not just for you anymore. Because now you're carrying more than your own dream. You're carrying the blueprint for those still stuck in their pain. You're carrying the map for the ones who haven't seen the light yet. You're carrying legacy. Legacy isn't built in wins. Legacy is built in the weight you carry when no one else sees, and you carry it anyway. Because you knew the climb wasn't just about reaching the top. It was about becoming the kind of person who could lift others from the bottom. So don't ever think for 1 second that your pain was wasted. Don't ever let anyone convince you that your failure disqualifies you. Your failure qualified you. It qualified you for wisdom. It qualified you for depth. It qualified you to speak with authority, not because you studied success, but because you survived the war to earn it. So now, walk. Walk like someone who has nothing to prove, but everything to give. Walk like someone who's been refined by fire and now carries light. Walk like someone who's been through hell and came back holding the keys. Let the world watch. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them whisper, that's the one who turned failure into fire. Because that's who you are now. You are not broken. You are built. You are not ruined. You are reborn. And your future? Your future is not a maybe. It's a must. So go. Not timidly, not cautiously, but boldly, unapologetically, unshakably. Go create. Go build. Go lead. Go become everything that failure tried to keep buried. And when you reach the mountaintop, don't just plant your flag. Plant your roots. Because you didn't come this far to visit greatness. You came to live there. Now go take your place. This is just the beginning. There comes a moment when every ambitious soul wakes up and realizes it's no longer enough to survive. Survival is for the uncertain, for the indifferent, for the passive. But you were never built to coast. You were never designed to drift through days with a muted heart and an uninspired mind. No. You are a leader not by title, but by temperament. Not by role, but by responsibility. And if you're awake enough to hear these words, you know. You feel it deep in your bones, the call to rise, to sharpen, to lead not just others, but first, yourself. Because all leadership begins within. No crown, no position, no applause will ever compensate for a person who cannot command their own mind, their own days, their own destiny. You don't get to lead anyone else until you can lead your own energy out of mediocrity. And that is where the first transformation begins. Plan 1. Master your internal world or become a slave to your external one. The battlefield of the ambitious is not the market, the economy, or the competition. It is the space between their ears. The most dangerous war is the quiet one. You wage against your own limitations, your own excuses, your own doubt that whispers, maybe I'm not ready. But a true leader doesn't wait to feel ready. They decide to be ready. They command their thoughts like a general commands an army. Every day, before the world even sees you, you must win in the dark. Win when the alarm goes off. Win when your body says no and your purpose says go. Win when your mind starts negotiating with weakness and you answer back with clarity, discipline, and authority. You were never meant to follow the mood of the day. You were meant to set it. Which brings us to the next plan. Lead with clarity or be led by chaos. An unclear leader is a dangerous one. Not because they're evil, but because they drift. And when leaders drift, people drown. Businesses stall. Families suffer. Futures are delayed. Clarity is the compass. And too many ambitious people are busy without direction, building without vision, exhausting themselves for goals they never defined. You don't get points for movement. You get results for alignment. So stop. Ask yourself, what am I building? Why does it matter? Who must I become to deserve it? Write it, speak it, burn it into your mind. Because once clarity exists, everything else begins to arrange itself around it. Decisions become obvious. Distractions lose their power. And your life stops feeling like noise and starts feeling like a mission. Now, with mission in place, it's time to activate Plan 3. Upgrade your standards or get buried under your circumstances. Too many leaders suffer in silence because they try to fix results without fixing the root, and the root is always standards. You get what you tolerate. In health, in business, in relationships, in your own habits. The truth? You don't rise to your potential, you fall to your standards. And if your standards are built on emotion, on convenience, on the comfort of fitting in, you will fail silently and call it balance. You don't need balance. You need alignment. You need conviction. You need a standard so high that it repels everything that doesn't belong in the life you're building. Raise the standard. Raise it so high it offends the part of you that still wants to play small. Raise it until it scares you, because that's when it's finally aligned with your calling. Then enforce it. Not once, not when it's easy, but daily, until it becomes identity. And once your identity is anchored in power, it's time to activate the 4th plan. Take complete ownership of everything, every win, every loss, every inch of progress. The moment you assign blame is the moment you hand away your influence. Leaders don't play the victim. They don't wait for rescue. They don't outsource responsibility. They look in the mirror and say, if it's to be, it's up to me. You don't control everything, but you control your response to everything. You control how you lead when the storm hits. You control how you speak when emotions rise. You control whether you panic or plan. Blame builds nothing. Ownership builds empires. So stop pointing fingers. Start building foundations. And once that foundation is laid, activate Plan 5. Design your environment for war, not comfort. Because your environment is not neutral. It is either pulling you forward or dragging you down. Every leader has blind spots, traps, saboteurs disguised as friends, excuses hiding in routines. And if your environment is not engineered to align with your future, It will keep pulling you back to your past. Clean the room. Change the music. Cut the noise. Block the apps. Fire the energy drainers. Surround yourself with forces that sharpen you, not soothe you into sleep. A lion doesn't grow strong in a petting zoo. It needs the wild, the pressure, the hunt. You are not here to be coddled. You are here to conquer. Now you're ready for plan 6. Move with urgency. Live like your legacy depends on the next decision, because it does. The clock is not your friend. It is your rival. And every second you waste pretending you have time is a second you will beg for when the clock runs out. Leaders don't wait. They initiate. They understand that someday is code for never. They don't need permission. They need a reason. And if your reason is big enough, the resistance will never be strong enough to stop you. Stop sitting on ideas. Stop waiting for signs. Move. Make the call. Start the draft. Launch the product. Send the message. Ask the question. Raise the standard. Cut the dead weight. You are not here to manage time. You are here to maximize it. So rise. Begin. Execute like your life depends on it, because it does. Because the distance between where you are and where you could be is not measured in miles. It's measured in moments. The moments you act versus the moments you delay. The moments you choose courage over comfort. And that brings you to plan 7. Trade comfort for capacity. Every ambitious leader must come to terms with this truth. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The very thing you crave, ease, rest, safety, is the very thing that will kill your edge if you're not vigilant. Capacity, not comfort, is the currency of greatness. And the only way to expand it is to stretch. You stretch through early mornings. You stretch through hard conversations. You stretch by saying no when it's easier to say yes. You stretch by doing one more rep, writing one more line, pushing through one more obstacle, not because you feel like it, but because you're committed to becoming the kind of person who can carry what the future demands. Leadership is not about preserving what you have. It's about preparing for what you're building. And that kind of preparation demands Plan 8. Discipline your attention like your future depends on it, because it does. Focus is the superpower of the modern world. In a sea of distractions, the leader who can sit in stillness, lock in on a task, and execute without splintering their mind wins. Because attention is not just mental, it's spiritual. Where you place your focus is where you place your faith. You become what you consistently look at. So audit your inputs, clean your feed, turn off the noise, close the tabs. Protect your energy like royalty protects a throne, because what sits in your mental kingdom will determine the quality of your empire. And once your focus is sharpened, you activate Plan 9. Design your habits for your identity, not just your goals. Goals are great, but they are outcomes. Habits are identity, the system that keeps you consistent when motivation disappears, when the applause stops, when it's just you, the silence, and the standard you said you'd live by. You don't rise to what you say, you rise to what you repeat. And if your daily systems are built for average, no amount of ambition will save you from eventual mediocrity. So build routines that match the future you. Wake like they wake. Train like they train. Study like they study. Execute like they execute. Show up like your dream self already exists, and one day you'll look up and realize they do. And from identity flows Plan 10. Play long but move fast. Real leaders think in decades, not days. They're not chasing dopamine. They're building dynasties. But don't confuse long-term vision with slow movement. Just because your eyes are on the mountaintop doesn't mean your feet should drag. Move quickly on ideas. Pivot with agility. Execute at the speed of belief, because what you delay, you train your brain to distrust. Speed is not recklessness, it's readiness. It says, I'm not waiting for things to be perfect. I move because I know who I am. And when you move with speed and think with legacy, you step into the space of the elite, the ones who not only build, but outlast, which leads directly to Plan 11. Fortify your resilience before the storm comes. The question isn't if adversity will hit, it's when. And when it does, the leader doesn't panic. They pivot because they've built their foundation on truth, not trends, on principles, not popularity. You build resilience by confronting small discomforts daily so that when the big ones come, you don't crumble. You've already rehearsed the resistance. You've already stared failure in the face and said, "You don't define me. You refine me." Tough times don't build character. They reveal it. And only the disciplined will stand when the winds rise. So you prepare now, not later. You prepare through mindset, through systems, through strong people in your corner who call out the champion in you when you forget it's there. And as resilience hardens your resolve, you ignite Plan 12. Surround yourself only with those who reflect your future, not your past. There is no neutral energy in your circle. Every conversation is either fueling your fire or feeding your fear. Every person is either echoing your purpose or diluting your identity. As a leader, you must protect your circle like a sacred chamber. There is no room for laziness, no space for entitlement, no tolerance for mediocrity masked as support. Because if they're not pushing you, challenging you, elevating you, they're dragging you. Surround yourself with assassins of excuses, architects of vision, builders of belief, people who remind you of who you said you'd be when the fire was fresh. Your circle is either your launch pad or your cage. Choose wisely. And now, with the right people in place, with your fire stoked, your habits locked, and your mindset sharp, you activate Plan 13. Speak like a leader, especially to yourself. Words create worlds. And no one hears your voice more than you. Every sentence you repeat is a command to your subconscious. So stop speaking in uncertainty. Stop hiding behind sarcasm and self-deprecation. That's not humility. It's self-sabotage. Speak power. Speak vision. Speak truth, even when it sounds arrogant to the small-minded. Speak with the authority of someone who has already decided to win. Your voice must become the soundtrack of your transformation. Every morning, every moment, every mirror. And as your voice rises, so too must your heart. Which brings us to Plan 14. Lead with gratitude, not just grind. Grind without gratitude turns to bitterness. Hustle without heart turns to emptiness. But when you root your pursuit in awe, in the sheer privilege of building, creating, serving, you access a deeper power. Gratitude doesn't make you soft. It makes you stronger because it centers you in perspective. It reminds you that you get to lead. You get to face pressure. You get to carry weight. Every obstacle is a gift in disguise. Every delay is a refinement. Every long night is proof you haven't quit. Be grateful not just for what you've gained, but for who you've become in the process. And now, with all the fuel, fire, and force aligned, you arrive at Plan 15. Lead yourself relentlessly so you can lead others effortlessly. Because when all is said and done, leadership is not about control. It's not about applause. It's not about followers. It's about becoming. You lead because you've chosen the harder path, the one where you own your flaws, sharpen your strengths, and carry the weight of vision when others collapse. And the more consistently you lead yourself, the less you need to motivate others. Your life becomes the sermon. Your actions become the message. Your standard becomes the invitation for others to rise. So rise. Become the kind of leader who leads from the inside out. Let your thoughts be intentional. Let your words be weapons of truth. Let your actions make legacy inevitable. Because the world does not need more noise. It needs you, fully alive, fully aligned, fully unleashed. This is how you change your life. This is how you lead. And when you lead like that, not from ego, not from image, but from essence, everything shifts. You don't chase influence, you become it. You don't force respect, you earn it. You don't need to be seen, because the impact of your presence becomes impossible to ignore. This is what ambitious leadership truly is. A quiet rebellion against mediocrity. A daily, deliberate defiance against everything that says, stay small. It is not something you do on stage or in a boardroom. It's what you do in the silence when no one is watching and no one is clapping. It's waking up earlier than your doubt. It's outworking your fear. It's sharpening your soul while others scroll. It's building what they can't see, so one day they stand in awe of what you refuse to quit on. Because ambition without structure is anxiety, and leadership without personal mastery is just noise. But you are not here to echo. You are here to initiate. So now you lead with legacy in mind. You stop reacting to life and start architecting it. You create space in your calendar for the things that matter. You build systems that protect your peace and multiply your purpose. You stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned access to your vision. And you rise not just in results, but in resonance. Your presence begins to speak louder than your profile. Your consistency becomes your credibility, and your attitude becomes your authority. This is what the world will see. But the world will never know the sacrifices made in silence, the prices paid in private, the inner battles you won while smiling on the outside. But you'll know, and that's enough. Because real leaders don't need constant praise, they need constant purpose. You are building something far beyond what the eye can see. A legacy, a movement, a ripple that will echo for generations, not just because of what you achieved, but because of who you chose to become. So as you walk back into your day, head high, eyes sharp, energy focused, remember this: you are not waiting for a moment. You are the moment. You are not hoping for a shift. You are the shift. You are not just dreaming of a better future. You are becoming the kind of leader who will build it. And when they ask how you changed your life, you won't give them a list. You'll just smile and live it. Because nothing is louder than a life lived in full alignment. No speech, no strategy, no social media post can rival the quiet power of a human being who embodies what they speak, who owns what they believe, who executes what they once only imagined. That's who you are now. You don't just talk about greatness, you build it. Brick by brick, standard by standard, day by day. While others chase shortcuts, you chase mastery. While others seek comfort, you seek clarity. While others want recognition, you demand responsibility. Because you know deep in your bones that leadership is not about being in front. It's about being solid. It's about being the one who can't be moved when the storm hits, the money dips, the team falters, the world changes. It's about becoming the constant in a world of variables. A pillar of principle, a symbol of consistency, a force of nature that doesn't flinch when tested. That is your new identity, not built in one day, but reinforced, refined, and revealed through every decision made with intentionality. So every time you wake up, remember, you're not just waking to tasks. You're waking to testimony. You're not just building a life. You're building a legacy of example. You're not just a person doing the work. You are the proof that discipline wins, that purpose speaks louder than fear, that ambition, aligned with integrity, can move mountains. Because you were not sent here to replicate, you were sent to resonate. And when your life resonates with truth, with vision, with impact, the world shifts, not because you told it to, but because your presence made it undeniable. So walk boldly, speak clearly, act decisively, forgive quickly, love deeply, move fiercely, and never again ask the world for permission to lead. You already did that when you decided to change your life. And now you're unstoppable. Because the moment you became unstoppable wasn't when they saw you succeed. It was when you refused to surrender in silence. When you picked yourself up, bleeding and bruised, and whispered, "I'm not done." That is the fire they won't understand. That is the edge they cannot imitate. That is the reason you will rise while others stall, because your ambition is not shallow. It is rooted in depth, in pain transformed into power, in vision shaped by fire. You stopped needing applause the day you discovered your assignment. And now, you don't need hype to move. You need only your word. You said you would rise, and you are rising. You said you would lead, and you are leading. You said you would become the kind of person you once only dreamed of, and now you're staring at the blueprint, hammer in hand, building it brick by brick. Let the world call it extreme. Let them call it obsession. Let them call it too much. You call it necessary. Because when you look at your future, the one you are forging with sweat, vision, and sacrifice, you see something they don't. You see the family that will be fed, the people who will be freed, the chains that will be broken, the ceiling that will be shattered because you decided to go first. This is what leadership is. Not title, not status, not image. It is sacrifice in silence for impact in eternity. You carry that weight not because it's easy, but because you can. And now you do it not out of duty, but out of destiny. So this is your vow burned into your mind, sealed into your bones. No more half steps. No more waiting to be chosen. No more settling for maybe. No more apologizing for the fire inside. From here forward, everything you do reflects who you've become. Not a person in pursuit of greatness, but the living proof of it. So let your actions roar. Let your standards speak louder than your status. Let your discipline echo through generations. Because you are no longer just a person trying to succeed. You are a leader, reshaping the world through the way you live. And that changes everything. And if they ask where it started, this shift, this rise, this transformation they now see in your eyes, you won't point to a stage or a spotlight. You'll point to the silence, to the dark mornings, to the lonely decisions, to the exact moment you looked at the life you were living and said with absolute finality, no more. Because that's where real change begins, not in noise, not in performance, but in resolve. That unshakable moment when you stop hoping life gets easier and decide you'll get stronger. When you stop craving comfort and choose capacity. When you stop fearing judgment and step fully into conviction. This is your real wealth. Not the money, not the metrics, but the man or woman you've become in the furnace of intentional action. You don't need to scream it. You show it in your posture, in your peace, in the intensity behind your calm, in the discipline behind your joy, in the weight your name carries, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. You've now become the kind of person who doesn't need to prove they've changed because your presence proves it. And what's more, your life now becomes permission. Permission for others to rise. Permission for others to dream bigger. Permission for others to believe that greatness isn't inherited, it's engineered. You are the proof, the walking, breathing, unrelenting proof that with vision, with structure, with faith and fire and impenetrable standards, anything can be transformed. You didn't just change your life. You rewrote the rules. You didn't just climb the mountain. You built a new one and showed others how to ascend. And from here on out, no matter how high you go, how far you stretch, how deeply you influence, you will always return to the root truth that made this all possible. You led yourself first. And because of that, you will never be lost again. Because no matter what storms may come, what setbacks may surface, what doubts may whisper, you will stand firm because you know who you are. You are the storm. You are the shift. You are the kind of leader who walks into the fire and builds cathedrals inside it. This is not the end of your journey. This is the birth of the next level. So don't slow down. Don't settle. Don't forget the weight you carry, the fire you bear, the lives you were born to impact. Now, go, lead, live, and never look back. Not with applause, not with a bow, but with a vow, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken because it's already been written into the rhythm of how you breathe, how you move, how you show up from this moment forward. Because this wasn't just a script. It was a mirror. It was a match. It was a mandate. And now that it's been lit inside you, there's only one thing left to do. Lead your life like it's the only one bold enough to break the mold. Because it is. And you are. Power isn't something you wait for. It's not something the world hands you. It's not found in titles, applause, or permission. Real power, personal power, is built brick by brick, thought by thought, discipline by discipline. And if you don't learn how to build it, you will always depend on someone else's. You were not born to stay small. You were not created to shrink. Deep down, you know this. That's why you're restless. That's why you ache when you settle. That's why something in you keeps whispering, more is possible. But here's the truth. You don't get more power by demanding it from the world. You create more power by reclaiming it from within. Because every ounce of power you'll ever need is already inside you, buried under distraction, buried under self-doubt, buried under years of compromise and conditioning. And this is your call to dig it back up. There is a process. 4 unshakable steps. Not gimmicks, not shortcuts, but a path that reclaims your fire, restores your identity, and reminds you of your place in this world, not as a bystander, but as a builder, not as a victim of life, but as a force inside it. First step, command your clarity. You cannot be powerful when you are foggy. You cannot move mountains when you don't know which direction you're walking. Clarity is the starting point of all strength. And most people never access their power because they never stop long enough to ask the real questions. What do I actually want? Who am I becoming? What am I no longer willing to tolerate in myself? Until you define your direction, you will drift. And drift will rob you of every dream you were born to live. The world is noisy. Everyone has an opinion for your life. But you don't need more input. You need more intention. Power comes when you stop reacting and start designing. When you wake up with decisions, not just desires. When your vision becomes so specific, so vivid, that it starts to pull you forward even when you feel tired. Because clarity is not a luxury. It's not a journal prompt. It's survival. If you can't name your future, you can't claim it. If you can't define your path, you'll walk someone else's. So sharpen the blade. Get precise. Get loud about your priorities. Because vague goals create vague lives. But precise people move like missiles. They know where they're going, and the world moves when they do. 2, activate aligned energy. You have power, but not all energy is equal. There's frantic energy, the kind that burns fast, fueled by anxiety, desperation, and noise. That's not power. That's panic, dressed up in productivity. Then there's aligned energy, calm, concentrated, anchored to purpose. That's the kind that moves mountains. That's the kind you need. Most people burn out not because they're doing too much, but because they're misaligned. They say yes to things that drain them. They chase approval instead of alignment. They wake up and hand over their time to anything urgent, anything loud, and by the end of the day, they're exhausted, but not empowered. If you want personal power, you must learn to activate energy from the right source. Not caffeine, not adrenaline, but intention. Wake up every day with a mission. Not a list, a mission. What do I need to build today that brings me closer to the person I am becoming? Power is built in what you repeat. It's not one big moment. It's 1,000 daily decisions to live in alignment with who you say you are. If you say you're a leader, are your mornings structured like a leader's? If you say you want freedom, are your afternoons disciplined like someone who earns it? If you say you want impact, are your evenings designed to protect your vision? Most people don't lack energy, they leak it. Through gossip, through indecision, through digital overload, through tolerating people who dilute their fire. Every time you betray your own priorities, you bleed power. Every time you say yes to something that's not in line with your mission, you weaken your core. So create rituals that energize, environments that elevate, boundaries that protect. The most powerful people in the world aren't loud, they're clear. Their energy doesn't spike and crash. It flows. It's cultivated. It's chosen. And when you activate that kind of energy, the kind that's aligned to your truth, fueled by purpose, directed by vision, you become undeniable. Not because you hustle harder, but because everything you do is congruent. You no longer waste energy being who you're not. You wake up in your power and carry it into every room you enter. 3. Cultivate unshakable belief. If clarity gives you direction and alignment gives you momentum, then belief is what gives you gravity. It's the force that draws your future into your hands. Because no matter how strong your strategy, no matter how clean your systems, if you don't believe in your power, you'll sabotage it before it ever reaches the surface. Let's be honest. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because their inner dialogue is incompatible with their destiny. They try to build empires with the self-talk of a servant. They speak like victims and wonder why they don't rise like kings. They kneel to fear in private but expect to stand in purpose in public. But belief doesn't work that way. It's not a decoration, it's the foundation. You want power? Then you have to believe in you more than the world believes in your limits. You have to speak truth louder than your fear whispers lies. You have to repeat your identity relentlessly until your cells believe what your soul already knows. Here's the truth. The voice in your head is either building you or breaking you. And too many people are fluent in self-doubt, but strangers to self-trust. They've memorized every flaw but forgotten every fire. If you talk to your friends the way you talk to yourself, you'd have no one left. So, change the language. Belief is trained, not given. It's practiced like a muscle. You don't wait for it to show up, you build it. One declaration at a time, one action at a time. One refusal to retreat. One more time. And here's the magic. When belief becomes your baseline, confidence stops being emotional. It becomes structural. You stop asking, what if I'm not ready? And start declaring, watch me rise anyway. You stop waiting to be perfect and start being powerful. Not because you never feel fear, but because your belief is now stronger than your excuses. And belief doesn't mean arrogance. It means you're rooted. It means your identity is no longer up for debate. It means you've chosen to trust the process before the proof shows up. That's how every revolution starts, one person who believed before anyone else did. 4. Execute relentlessly. All the clarity in the world means nothing without action. All the aligned energy, all the belief in your soul, if it doesn't move your feet, it doesn't move your future. Execution is the great separator. It's the difference between dreamers and doers, between planners and producers, between the ones who talk about change and the ones who become it. Power is not promised to those who wait. Power is transferred to those who move. You build momentum by being in motion. You build influence by being in alignment. You build legacy by being in action. And not just once, but relentlessly, over and over, on the days when it's hard, on the mornings when you don't feel like it, on the nights when no one claps, no one sees, and nothing's going right, but you show up anyway. That's power. That's how it grows. Because the strongest people in the world didn't get there by getting it right every time they got there by refusing to stop. They fell. They bled. They questioned everything. But they didn't quit. They executed anyway. They didn't wait for certainty. They built it in the doing. They didn't wait for motivation. They earned it through movement. They didn't seek comfort. They chose greatness over convenience. And that's the choice in front of you now. You know what to do. You've reclaimed clarity. You've aligned your energy. You've built belief like armor. Now comes the part the world doesn't see: the grind, the building, the repetition, the courage to repeat the right things until they become who you are. Relentless doesn't mean reckless. It means committed. It means you show up with intention. It means every day your actions vote for the future you believe in. And those votes, they compound. They add up. Until one day, you wake up and realize your goal isn't just a goal anymore. It's your reality. So, move. Now, no more overthinking, no more delay, no more waiting for a perfect plan. You don't need perfect. You need relentless. Start where you are. Use what you have. Run with what you know. Power doesn't wait, and neither should you.